is unfathomable. We have a mushroom cloud outside of Moscow at a strategic facility with dozens of casualties. Let me repeat that again. We have a mushroom cloud in a strategic military facility with dozens of casualties just outside of Moscow. Now, guys, I understand that there's trolls lurking in the shadows looking for a safe place to vent every single day, but please, you can be angry at me. I understand the weight of economic contraction is bearing down on you. The angst is overwhelming and you need a safe place to vent. You can be angry, but please don't be stupid. We all know you're secretly prepping in the shadows. I would continue to do so. We're going to talk about what exactly happened at this facility, what they were working on there, what nobody else is talking about, and boy is this significant. Maui is an apocalyptic hellscape. The Texas power grid is on the brink of collapse. There's been another attempt to attack the spent fuel rods at a nuclear power facility. Sergei Shoigu, the Russian Minister of Defense, says that Poland is preparing an invasive force and is going to enter Ukraine soon. We also have them bolstering the troop presence on their western flank. We have North Korea drawing up invasion plans for South Korea. French troops are attacking soldiers in Niger. Biden is getting ready to ask Congress for another $10 billion. The price of oil is skyrocketing. Inflation is on the rise once again. Poland is sending 2,000 more troops to Belarus. Massive convoys of military vehicles en route to Ukraine. We have oil spiking once again due to what's going on in the Black Sea, among other things. We got more Patriot missiles sent into Ukraine. We got to talk about the drought in Canada, among other things. Now look, I could be very aggrieved at these trolls, and I know I'm mentioning trolls in the first 2 minutes of the video, things you never do, but I want to say this. As a person who has an honors degree in psychology, I can tell you what it's all about. You see, as the weight of all of these crises, it's a chronic form of stress. You have inflation, you have the cost of living, you see negative news every single day. You want to vent that anger in a safe place. This is called displacement. It's a transfer of a negative emotion from one person or thing to an unrelated person or thing, typically that is safer. It's also called the kick the dog theory. So you have a bad day at work, your life sucks, so you go and you take it out on the innocent dog at home. That's what's happening here, my friends. I would encourage you to channel that energy into something constructive, like getting your ass prepared for the proverbial end of fucking days, okay? I had to throw in an expletive there because this is unfathomable. I don't know how else to conceptualize what's going on right now. Wow, this is unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. I'm just trying to imagine a world in which this would just be passing news and that this would not get any media attention whatsoever. But that's the world that we're living in today. And that's why the shizzy is on the brink of hitting the proverbial fizzy. Now, while I play this clip, I'm going to tell you what exactly is going on at this facility, okay? Now, apparently, according to Russian state sources, according to the website of state procurement, the company not only continues to supply optics to Russian security forces, so this was a facility that worked on things like night vision, something that is proving absolutely essential, a major force multiplier in this conflict, not only for mounting on drones, but for soldiers, for all kinds of military equipment, okay? Night vision is a game changer. You know you're a super prepper when you got yourself a thermal optic. Now, not just night vision, I meant thermal imaging, okay? But also, from 2019, participates in the development of the Russian strategic bomber missile carrier of the new generation Envoy bombers. Envoy is a long-range missile-carrying bomber which Tupolev has been developing for the Ministry of Defense of the Russian Federation since 2009. This facility was integral to that. You remember when the Ukrainians attacked Engels Air Base, where they held Russian nuclear bombers? There's been several attacks now on Russia's strategic forces. And I'm telling you guys, we're getting down to the wire. Every incident like this brings us closer to an actual nuclear incident. The aircraft is designed according to the flying wing scheme. The design will be widely used in technologies and materials that reduce visibility. Now, this incident, up till now, the tally is around 50 people who were injured, 4 buildings completely destroyed, and another 20 that were damaged. The director of the company denied the information, stating that the explosion did not occur in the pyrotechnics warehouse, but in a nearby warehouse where metal pipes were stored and where there were no combustible materials. It's also alleged that they're working on Iskander medium-range ballistic missile systems there. Guys, this is massive. Now, if that was the only news of the day, this would be one hell of an SHTF day. But that is literally just the beginning. This is the plane that they're trying to develop. It's very similar to the stealth bomber, okay? And this place that blew up was very important for that purpose. Now, yesterday, I talked about how the SBU, their spokesperson, Sarah Aston-Cirillo, posted that Russia notified the UN of its intent to enact martial law. Well, today, Sergei Shoigu provided a lengthy address where he not only said that Poland's intentions are to infiltrate Western Ukraine and essentially take it over, and also that they're going to be bolstering and increasing their forces on their western flank as a result of Finland and as a result of all of the military activity and the expansion of Poland's military. Where are they going to get these forces from is the question. Well, the place they're going to get it from is from a widespread mobilization. They are going to mobilize this winter, and that could possibly lead to some destabilization within Russian society. The ruble is crashing once again. I know a lot of people think Russia has this in the bag, but guys, it's not so cut and dry. I'm 100% convinced that this is not going to be a cakewalk. In fact, some troops, according to an intercepted call, that they've been told that they're going to be at war at least until 2026. 3 more years of constantly being on the nuclear edge. Can you imagine how desensitized we're going to be to stuff in 3 years? In the span of 18 months, we're already used to. It's already boring for people to see mushroom clouds at strategic facilities just outside of Russia's capital and still no nuclear response. Wow. Absolutely insane. I'm just bewildered. I'm bewildered at how people cannot see the dominoes falling here. It is absolutely insane. Now, we also have another explosion at another facility. This is another facility in Russia, where it's a military facility, another large explosion. This is happening on a daily basis now. The calls for the use of the bomb is rising in Russia every single day. And I worry that we've become so desensitized to these threats and the nuclear rhetoric uttered by many within the Russian parliament, within the Duma, within the former president, Dmitry Medvedev. We've become so numb to this all that when it finally happens, people may acquiesce to the idea rather softly. It might not even create too much concern amongst people. Now, don't get me wrong, there's going to be panic, but I believe that we're living in such a fly-by-night world today that we've become so impulsive and so accustomed to a constant bombardment and endless stream of information that there'll be a nuke dropped, and I think in the 2 days afterwards, there's going to be immediate panic. People are going to lose their minds. There's going to be a massive rush on the stores and yada, 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 all around the world. People are going to be placing online orders like crazy when that goes down. But it's probably going to fizzle out rather quickly. And then what happens next is the problem. Because then we enter a world where we could very well see the normalization of low-yield nuclear weapons, something I've been warning about for a very, very long time. We have trains of tanks, massive trains full of dozens of tanks. This video is 2 minutes long, okay? I'm not even going to show you the whole thing because, you don't have time for that. But we just have endless convoys of vehicles, of missile launchers, MLRS launchers, heading in the southern direction, likely towards the Kharkov region. The war is just intensifying day after day after day. So you need to continue, please continue to be prepared. Trolls, you can be mad, but just don't be stupid. Okay, that's going to be my new mantra. I'm going to get a t-shirt. Be mad, don't be stupid. Okay? Now, Ukraine is declaring war on Russia shipping in the Black Sea. Ukrainian official told Politico on Tuesday that all Russian ports and ships, including commercial vessels, are considered legitimate military targets as the war in Ukraine is escalating in the Black Sea. Let's go check out marinetraffic.com. Let's just show you the amount of ships that are currently in the Black Sea. And this could be part of the reason why oil is spiking. These are all ships, okay? As you can see, there ain't much activity around here, around the Odessa region. In fact, there's no activity. It's now, there used to be traffic here because of the grain corridor. That is no more. Ukraine is saying, we got a green light on all of these ships. I can't even count them, but there are hundreds of ships at any given time. And these aren't just Russian ships. There are American vessels. There are European vessels. There are, crude oil tankers from all over the world. And of course, they're circumventing sanctions by, I can't remember what they call it. There's a term for it where they offload the crude to a different tanker. And it's just a way of smuggling oil, essentially. So if this Black Sea trade grinds to a halt as a result of high insurance costs, because nobody wants to insure the ships in that region because there's just too high of a risk, if there is a no-go zone, I don't know what you call it, no-fly zone, no traffic zone in the Black Sea, then we're talking about oil prices spiking even higher than they are now. Now, oil is on a tear once again. It's up something like 30%, I think, in the past few months. Now, down from the highs of near, like 120 at one point throughout 2022. But remember where we are. We're in a world where the crude oil reserve stocks are at half of what they were at their peak. And inflation is starting to tick up again. So if the government in the United States wants to control that inflation, because this is the only thing that is controlling inflation right now, the depletion of the strategic oil reserve is what is causing prices to go down a little bit because it's making oil cheap. Oil is going up again as a result of what's going on in Africa, as a result of what's going on in the Black Sea, as well as a variety of other factors. There's a lot of stress right now on the energy grid because of the heat waves and stuff like that. And a lot of heat, a lot of energy, electricity is generated from petroleum-based fuels. So all of this pressure is, it's almost as if everything is just waiting to blow. There's been a drone attack attempt. This is according to the Russians now. Russian state media, full disclosure. I show you guys what the right says, I show you what the left says. Ukraine drone attempts to attack a spent nuclear fuel facility. Now, if that is true, and I say a big if, you don't know where these drones are heading to. Are they trying to attack some sort of installation that is in and around the nuclear facility? Or was this clearly intended, was its trajectory towards clear-cut and provable, demonstrable that it was en route to a spent fuel facility or a holding area. If that was true, that is absolutely insane, because that would have been a massive incident. That would have been a radiological incident, which would have possibly been blamed on the Russians. Maybe, maybe not. But there would be just the suspicions that it might have been the Russians that did something like that, would of course call into question whether or not NATO was going to involve itself in some way, shape, or form in the conflict. A lot of people seem to think this is over. They're turning their backs on Zelensky. That's the rub, man. That's totally the rub. Because understand how information warfare truly works. Everybody thinks, oh, I know what's going on. I have all these access to the internet. Biden's going to ask for another $10 billion, and he's probably going to get it. I say probably because you just never know, but I'm almost convinced that they're going to get whatever they want. In spite of the fact that CNN ran a poll saying that the U.S. citizenry doesn't support or doesn't majority support Ukraine. I don't know how that poll was conducted. Polls can be conducted in very biased ways sometimes. Apparently, the White House does not see a drop in U.S. support for military aid to Ukraine. So they're going to continue. They're going to continue to push the boundaries to the point where we are going to inevitably see, because based on what I talked about yesterday in that hour-long presentation, numerous sources are reporting that it's Russia who is actually losing the attritional war due to more precise targeting with Ukrainian artillery. There is one report that says that for every artillery piece the Ukrainians lose, the Russians lose 4. Now again, nobody knows what's going on the front line. I know a lot of you cite various pundits who claim to have all of the answers, but I would encourage you, at least right now, to keep an open mind about this, because it's still anybody's ball game the way I see it. So anyways, this is what Sergei Shoigu had to say, okay? And this is what, to Douglas McGregor's credit, he's been saying this for some time. And this seems actually quite feasible. Warsaw is hatching plans to create a regular Polish-Ukrainian formation for the subsequent occupation of Western Ukraine. Now, you might be asking yourself, doesn't this mean NATO is entering Ukraine? No, this is the whole coalition of the willing that they're talking about. An entity which will operate independent of NATO, thereby not triggering Article 4 and 5 if Poland enters, or if this coalition of countries enters Ukraine. If the Russians attack within the boundaries of Ukraine, then Article 4 and 5 is not invoked. However, if Russia starts to get pushed and prodded in ways that are unsustainable, they will attack Poland, they will attack the Baltic states, they will engage in a hybrid war, level, what do they call it, 5th gen warfare, and they will start targeting decision-making centers, some of which will lie inside of Ukraine, possibly even trying to target Kiev and the leadership class there. They will start to target military strategic places throughout Europe. And of course, this necessitates the invocation of Article 4 and 5, bringing NATO into the war and immediately bringing us to the brink of nuclear Armageddon. Now, I know a lot of people have been constantly leaving comments like, you've been saying it's going to be the end of the world for days now or years now. And I've never actually said that once. All I do is relay the information to you, and you can interpret it how you will. But there's definitely a sense of urgency to all of this news when you understand what's at stake. When you understand that we've never been as close to the brink as we are now, and the capabilities to annihilate with pinpoint precision have never been so vast and advanced as they are right now. And it's not just the threat of war that looms. There's all of these other crises that are reaching a crescendo at the same time, coalescing into a giant SHTF shitstorm. The minister called Poland the main instrument of the U.S. anti-Russian policy. According to him, the authorities intend to build the most powerful army in Europe, which they're going to showcase on the 15th of this month in what they're calling the biggest parade yet. In addition, there are plans to create on a regular basis the so-called Polish-Ukrainian connection, ostensibly to ensure the security of Western Ukraine, but in fact for the subsequent occupation of this territory. So he's saying that Poland has an ulterior motive with what they're planning, that the United States and Poland know that the frontier is a lost cause and that they're going to have to forego that part of Russia or that part of Ukraine that Russia has already annexed. So it's about to get interesting, man. I mean, it's always been interesting, but this is absolutely insane. Now, staying within the same sphere of influence, we have gas prices rising in Europe once again. It's not surprising because of what's going on in Africa today. Apparently, in Africa, rebels say that French troops attacked the National Guard and violated their airspace. So you're already starting to have clashes between French troops and these rebel forces. I'm not going to get into all the details of this again, but it appears that this situation is starting to spiral out of control as well. And it can quickly bring all of these surrounding countries into a vortex of chaos, because ultimately it's a battle for resources. All wars are resource wars. And as the price of things continue to increase, as the supply continues to diminish, and as the hoarding reaches all-time highs for certain countries, that's when you know we're getting down to crunch time. That's when you know the dominoes start falling and the music stops and the scramble for the musical chairs begins. You know, somebody yesterday wrote a comment. I get this comment a lot. This is copium, man. I heard somewhere, okay, because yesterday I made the argument that if you believe that they can't deliver 31 Abrams tanks in a few weeks, then you're crazy. And I stand by that. Because the US has over 8,000 of these tanks. Now, here's the rationale. Here's what they want you to think. Now, just try to bear with me. And no disrespect to this person, by the way. They voiced their opinion respectfully, so I responded. I heard somewhere that the tanks took so long from the US because the armor we use is classified, something to do with the reactive armor and the systems inside, the Abrams, blah, 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 blah. We don't want that stuff over in Ukraine, so it doesn't get into Russia's hands. Okay, well, think about that for a second. Here's my response. Ask yourself, what good is military equipment if you're always worried about it getting into enemy hands that you can never use it? Think about that. You're telling me that the most powerful military in the world is too afraid to get their brand new pair of shoes dirty so they never use them and lose the war? Do you truly believe that? No, the truth is, I don't know the exact truth, but that's not the truth. I mean, if you believe that the US can't muster more than 31 tanks in a year, you think it took them that long to do this modification? Seriously? Are we that inefficient? And you seriously think if we're that inefficient, we can win any wars? The Russians don't care about reactive armor and systems inside the Abrams. And if we're so scared about our stuff being stolen, what does that say about our military? Does that say that we're only willing to go up against people who are defenseless and that the battle is so disproportionately one-sided that we're always going to win so we can guarantee that the tanks aren't going to fall into the wrong hands? I mean, this is just stupid. So no, it's not that we can't. It's not a logistics issue. It's that we're choosing not to send that stuff there for what I think are very Machiavellian reasons. We don't want to empower the Ukrainians so much that they might actually push the Russians so much that it will prompt an immediate nuclear response, because we could. And we don't want to give Ukraine too much power just in case those sleeper cells that I'm sure Russia has scattered all throughout eastern parts of the country become awakened and eventually try to overthrow the government there and put in a Russian puppet government of their own. It's likely going to happen. Now, are they going to go all the way to Kiev? I don't know. But clearly, the US doesn't believe that they have... I mean, think about it. If you believe that you are going to win this conflict, you'd be sending your stuff there. I mean, holding on to stuff because you're worried about getting it dirty or you're worrying about it falling into the wrong hands, it's just, that's not a strategy. So you have to, at some point, if you're going to have to, at some point, run the risk of getting your stuff handed over and reverse engineering it. I don't think right now that the Russians need to reverse engineer any NATO technology, because what they're using appears to be effective for the most part in terms of a long-winded attritional conflict. Now, again, we don't know what's going on the front line, but I don't buy that for 1 minute, that you're sitting on all this stuff and we can't fix it. I mean, if that's the case, then we've lost World War III already. We might as well just throw in the towel. We might as well learn Cyrillic and just, start embracing Russian culture, because it's coming here. Let's stick to the war topic before we go on the crazy climate stuff. I mean, Canada's in a state of drought right now, which is insane. We got the Texas power grid, which is collapsing. Anyways, let's go over here to North Korea. Kim Jong-un decides military action plan against South. Now, this comes just a week before the nationwide civil defense drills, citing North Korean provocations, in which the U.S. and South Korea will be conducting joint military exercises around the same time that 51 million of their inhabitants descend into 17,000 bunkers, all right? Now, Kim Jong-un is now saying, he's doing the whole theatrics with him pointing at the map. I think this is mostly theatrics. But what they're saying is they're going to be preparing an offensive plan. Emphasis on offensive plan. Now, interestingly, Kim Jong-un's sister said something a couple weeks ago that was missed by myself and many others. Kim Yo-jong, the sister of North Korea's leader Kim Jong-un, says the launch last week of an intercontinental Hwasong missile was just the beginning of the country's military offensive. Kim Jong-un convened an enlarged Central Military Commission meeting to discuss the military parade in September, as well as step-up preparations for war by discussing powerful striking means against their adversaries and an offensive plan. Things are just going insane all over the world. We could talk about Lebanon. We could talk about Iran. We could talk about Israel. We could talk about Syria. We could talk about Burkina Faso. We could talk about, name a country, China, Taiwan. Everybody's entangled in something right now, it does appear. And the Russian ruble is slumping. It's largely an export-import thing. I'm not an economist, so I'm not going to begin to try to decipher that one. But it's crazy what's going on in the world right now. All I can say is, my friends, keep stocking up on that food. Keep mastering your survival skills. We got heat waves. Maui is burning down right now. There's a city there that was completely leveled. Lahaina, Maui, was leveled. It's gone, okay? And this is the new normal now because of the imbalance, disequilibrium. And the Texas power grid, apparently, they're now paying, 800% more? Texans were paying about $275 per megawatt hour of power on Saturday, when the cost rose to more than 800% to a whopping $2,500 per megawatt hour on Sunday. And this is due to the heat and the energy demand due to people running air conditioners. Now, when you run an air conditioner, you increase the drain on the system, and it actually makes things hotter. Air conditioners are, in effect, heaters. They kick out heat. They add to the, the urban heat island effect. And in doing so, you create, it's like a positive feedback. And so you need more and more energy because you make it hotter and yada, yada, yada. You have to use more air conditioning. And all of this just makes things worse. So they're going to continue to see higher temperatures. Temperature records are being shattered across the board. And the drought here continues. The wildfires here continue. This is a map of where the fires are on the, I can't remember what this small island is called. Is it called Maui? I believe it's called Maui. I've never been to Hawaii. You know, there's people prepping in Hawaii, and I know I have some avid viewers from Hawaii. I hope you guys are doing okay. And I appreciate your long-standing support of the channel. And I just hope you guys are, you know, not caught up in this conflagration. Oftentimes when you see these wildfires on TV, particularly here in Canada, people presume that because we're having these record-breaking wildfires here, that it's just fire, fire, fire everywhere. But fires are still relatively small to the larger landmass. Now, I can say that in Canada, where you can burn, you know, 1% of the Canadian boreal forest, and it would absolutely annihilate the record-breaking year. Okay, you don't need to burn much, and the smoke will go everywhere. So it seems like the fire is everywhere, but it's really not. Anyways, I'm not sure what it's like there. It seems like it's a smaller place, and if that place were to go up, I'm quite certain that there's going to be fewer places to run in that situation. So I hope you guys are doing well out there. That's all I can say. Now, I think that's about all I got to talk about today, guys. It's going to be a shorter video. I'm not going to sit here and talk for an hour like I have been in the last couple days. But yeah, man, I mean, I understand that the chronic stress is getting to people, okay? I understand. It's going to get worse. And I think, you know, all I can do is just keep on doing what I'm doing and hope that unconsciously people are processing the message and that they're taking it to heart. And I don't need to be aggrieved by this, because I understand that this is just people's way of venting the weight that is being put on them by this transition to this brave new world, whatever you want to call it, the great simplification, some people call it the decomplexification, the quickening, the singularity as we approach whatever sort of contraction we approach. It's going to get wild. It's going to get rough. People are going to lose their minds. We already know people are losing their minds. I mean, in London today, there was people, you know, they rallied to go and raid a store. So, you know, yesterday it was PlayStations. Today they're coming together to rob stores. This is what you would expect to see when the walls started closing in. And it's sad to say, but someday we will, unfortunately, be vindicated. Thanks for watching, guys. Canadian Prepper out.